Welcome to Accela training for Pinellas County. Record creation. This video will start to discuss the process of creating a record from the initial creation to the requirements to have it be accepted in the system. To create a record, we can start by opening the Launchpad and clicking on the Create New Record button. One thing to keep in mind with the creation of records is that it does appear in another window. If you have trouble seeing this window, you may have a pop-up blocker on your browser. You can disable your pop-up blocker or simply click Allow, and you should then be able to see the new window. If you do not see the window still, the pop-up window may be behind the one you see. When creating a record, we have to specify what kind of record to create. To do so, you can search the records at the top or expand the list below to see which records can be created. Once I decided which record I will create, I can then begin the application. The window that is now on my screen is the page where we can now start to fill in the information for our record. This process will generally be the same as the rules will apply to every record. However, all records are different, and the form you will use will likely vary from the one that you see here. The forms will follow a general pattern, with the control buttons at the top and bottom, and the fields below being organized into various sections. Generally, the sections will include record details, address, parcel, owner, applicant, and custom fields. The fields within these sections will vary based on the type of record, as well as the sections themselves, but the majority will have the sections I just mentioned. All records have a minimum amount of required information to submit and be accepted. The requirements are shown using small red asterisks. There are two kinds of requirements: field requirements and section requirements. The section requirements are located at the top of each section, followed by parentheses that say, "This section is required." Otherwise, there will be no asterisk, and it will say, "This section is not required." The requirements for fields will have the asterisk next to their name. Now, this means that there are three scenarios with the requirements. 1. A section is required and fields are required. 2. A section is not required and fields are required. 3. A section is required but fields are not required. In scenario 1, this means that the section will require the specified fields for the record to be accepted. In scenario 2, the section does not require information. However, if you decide to fill in the section, then the fields that are required need to be filled. In scenario 3, I only need to fill any field and the sectional requirement will be met. If I attempt to submit while there are requirements not filled out, then notice how the form is still there, and now at the top it tells me that the validation was failed. This means that one or more of the required fields were missing. Now let's talk about another unique attribute about Accela. Some sections have the ability to search pre-existing information, namely APO or address, parcel, and owner information. Accela has the ability to pull in the related data of those fields. For example, if I look up 5257 on address, a pop-up will allow me to pick an address with that information. Once I select it by clicking on the checkbox, it will ask if I want to import the related parcel and owner data. I can do so by selecting the checkbox and clicking Select. Notice now how the related data has filled in. This makes sure that the data is consistent in Accela, and it saves me from having to put it in again. Now let's finally talk about custom fields, also known as ASI or application-specific information. These are fields that are unique to every record. The types of fields that are existing are the following: dropdowns, which are fields that allow you to select preset values. Some dropdowns are dependent on previous dropdowns and will change their values. Text fields that are simple alphanumeric fields. And date fields. These open a calendar to allow you to select a date. While there are more fields that can be filled, these are the majority of kinds of fields that you will be using. Here, I have a completed form with all my required fields filled out. Let's submit the completed application. And if I've done everything correctly, I'll get a notice that tells me that the record was accepted. From this point, I can select View Summary at the bottom, and I can now see the record that was created.